Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be taking a closer look at workload to develop a better understanding of the concept.
I have no free bandwidth, I'm underwater. That's the final straw.
It's just a single piece of straw, right? Maybe Odyard was right when he said, it's better to start working young. You get used to it and stop asking questions.
No, workload is an important topic. When you have too much work, you can quickly feel overwhelmed and powerless. So, workload, what's the story?
First, to be clear, we've been alluding to an excessive workload, or, to be more precise, to the feeling of being overworked.
Right, it's about our feelings about the amount of work there is to do. And like all feelings, it's completely subjective. In other words, it's different for everyone.
Exactly. If you give everyone the same amount of work, they won't all react the same way. It's tied to a whole host of personal factors, including many that have to do with your life outside of work.
An employee is a person who can't compartmentalize everything. A person who comes to work with all of their baggage, like everyone else. You can't leave your problems at the door when you come into the office or plant and pick them up again when you leave.
And an employee's baggage of course impacts the way they feel about their workload.
Other factors, feeling recognized and rewarded for your efforts, or feeling like your work is pointless, for example, also impact the way you feel about your workload.
The way you see your workload is indissociable from a comprehensive approach to factors that contribute to job dissatisfaction.
Right, so it's important to distinguish a person's actual workload from how they perceive it. The same reality can create different feelings for different people. An amount of work that weighs on one person may not bother another.
But wait, let's talk about workload independently of how people feel about it. That's simple to define, right? It's simply the work you are expected to do.
Actually, no. There's what needs to be done, the goal to be reached, and what you actually do. And none of it lines up perfectly.
You're right. Imagine that you need to do something simple, draft the agenda for an upcoming meeting and send it to the attendees. Easy peasy. You know the project, you easily come up with a draft, everyone adds their 2 cents, and there you have it, right? No more than half an hour of work.
Well, you're forgetting the power games that may be going on between attendees, the people who always feel the need to make unnecessary changes, unexpected issues, replies that make no sense, and reminders you have to send out to get final approval.
Inconsistencies, sensitivities, the unexpected, incompetence, approximations, and more. There's a big difference between what you've been asked to do and what you actually end up doing. You wasted your time, managed your own feelings, and handled a pointless mental load.
Yes, there's always a significant gap between assigned workload and the real amount of work you have to do because nothing goes to plan.
I understand that it's impossible to plan for the unexpected, of course, but I don't understand why we constantly underestimate the impact of human factors. We know that some people always have to make up for what others don't do. We could take that into consideration.
True, but most people just take it on without saying anything.
And that results in feelings of injustice that make you feel powerless when it comes to the real amount of work you have to get through.
To you, listeners, who took the time to hear us out despite your big workloads, 1. Thank you, and 2. Put down your pen for a minute and think seriously about where the feeling of overwhelm is coming from. And if you need help, ask for it.
To recap, to understand workload, you have to look at 3 factors. 1. The amount assigned. 2. The amount of work actually accomplished. 3. And perceptions of the amount of work. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short. Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.